Less about the finale of Stranger Things. We're just going to brush over everything that happens pretty quickly and talk about that finale, which I'm pretty on the fence about how I feel. I think it definitely was the finale we should have gotten, but at the same time, I do understand where people are coming from, where the show was trying to put all of these stakes up and then ultimately didn't really go all the way. But that's what we're here to discuss right now. What did you think about that finale? Do you think that the show really lived up to the stakes that it was trying to imply were going to happen, or do you think that the show kind of chickened out a bit towards the end? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm curious to know what you think. But pretty much this finale, what it set up was this final confrontation between the whole group as well as Vecna. And what we ultimately got was all of the moments we wanted to get right from this season. And ultimately, we did deliver on those things. And I think that the big confrontation definitely was big. But of course, I do feel like towards the end, we really drifted a bit. But let's get into it. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're here to talk about Stranger Things. I think we're going to have to do another video tomorrow where we really discuss and break down the key moments here. I'm just interested right now in talking about the finale and everything we saw and those big moments. I want to talk about more details tomorrow, so I'm potentially thinking of doing a live where we're going to discuss all of that, so stay tuned for that by hitting the subscribe button. But basically what we saw here was the whole gang had to be the one that went up against Vecna as well as the Mind Flayer, because we find out of course that the Mind Flayer is the main antagonist here, who is even controlling Vecna and Henry at some point. We see a big crucial scene in this last episode where Will tries to reason with Henry and let him know that he indeed is also a vessel, because Henry sees Will as a vessel for himself, but Will tells him, you are in fact a vessel to the Mind Flayer. We are all vessels to it. You're being controlled and manipulated. It happened in that cave when you were just a young child. It's been controlling you ever since, and we need you to help us finally destroy it, because it wants to destroy our world and it's just using you as this vessel to do so. Henry of course doesn't listen, and we ultimately see that they have to kill Henry, Vecna, as well as the Mind Flayer. It's a hive mind. We see that this is a hive because during this memory that Henry is reliving, we see that Will is also affected by it. This is when we see that Mike realizes this as well and tells everybody, hey, this is a hive mind. We have to help 11. While she's fighting Vecna, we can fight the Mind Flayer and we can ultimately bring him down. And so that's what we see. The whole team goes up against the Mind Flayer. They start attacking it as 11 is fighting Vecna. Just as it's about to look like things are going to go on Vecna's side, however, we see that Will is able to tap back into that power, ultimately help 11, and they're able to finally defeat Vecna with Joyce giving the final blows. And I thought that was such a good thing that they were able to add in there, because I think Joyce being the one that this all started with in season 1 and ultimately the one that ends it is great to see, because Joyce for the longest had been told that she was crazy, that she didn't know what was going on, and that she was just mental, right? They were telling her that she wasn't right in the head for what was happening to Will in season 1, but now ultimately she gets her redemption. She's able to fully come full circle and be the one that finally defeats Vecna, and the Mind Flayer is destroyed now. Now of course the next thing is destroying the wormhole, which is the Upside Down. They devise that plan by having it explode, but we ultimately see that 11 will sacrifice herself with it as well, because the military is never going to stop trying to get 11. They want the blood, they want to continue the research and experiments that Brenner had started, and they are never going to stop trying to hunt for 11 because they want her blood just as they used Henry's blood back in the day. This is of course why 11 ultimately has to sacrifice herself, and she gives a tearful and final message to Mike in a Purple Rain montage, which I thought was great. That was the song that everybody had thought was going to be the one that plays in the finale. As we see the Upside Down ultimately go away, there is no more wormhole to Dimension X, and it's ultimately all over now, and 11 has died as well. We see as time has passed now, we see as everybody is trying to go back to normal life. They're graduating, they're going on dates, they're just doing all of these things. Joyce and Hopper as well are seemingly getting their relationship back together. We see Hopper and Mike as well try to reason with what happened to 11, and it's just a very, very heartfelt goodbye that we see here. And I thought it was great the way that they were able to put it together as well in these last moments. I do feel like it could have been something that, and then towards the finale we ultimately see that Mike tells the story of what exactly happened here, and he says that these two sisters ultimately made a pact that they were going to live, one of them at least, And we know now, of course, that Callie helped 11. Callie, of course, got shot and ultimately died. But right before she died, she actually told 11 she was going to do two things for her. She was going to give her invisibility, which she was able to do so that the military couldn't see her when she came out. And the other thing was create an illusion that way that everybody thought that she was going to be the one that was in the Upside Down when it blew up, and so the military would stop looking for her. She was able to give Mike her final farewell, and she was able to go on and live a life who knows where, but Mike believes it's somewhere where he said there were 3 waterfalls, and we see a quick montage of 11 being at these 3 waterfalls. So the group was able to defeat Vecna. They were able to defeat the Mind Flayer, who was the true big bad of the whole show, and ultimately they were able to stop the military from pursuing 11, because now the military does believe 11 is dead, and they can't continue the studies of Dr. Brenner and all of this because there is no more blood that they can use for it. But it is now being told by Mike that 11 indeed was able to survive in a way, and now she will be able to live happily, but she will never be able to be with them ever again. And we see a tearful goodbye, but just as the goodbyes are getting very teary, we see that a new group of kids are here to play Dungeons and Dragons, and that of course is Holly as well as Derek and all of the other kids that were saved ultimately from Vecna's grasp. They're continuing on. The stories will continue. This whole tradition and everything of friendship is something that's been passed down from these kids, and we'll see if we ever see them, because the Duffer Brothers have talked about spin-offs before, but we'll talk about that as well in the video and live tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. I just want to go over that ending because I thought it was a great ending where we really see 11 get that happy ending. Even though it's bittersweet, she won't be like trying to escape the military or evade them all of this time. She will be able to hopefully live a peaceful life, and just a great ending for a great character, I think. Though I do think that it kind of felt this season was rushed in a way, and I do think that Vecna should have been introduced a lot earlier in this series. But Vecna being like a military guy for the Mind Flayer made sense, because at the end of the day, it was always the Mind Flayer that was in charge and trying to take over, and it was just using Vecna this whole time. Even though Vecna couldn't come to reason with it, it just was so far gone for Henry, and he was just never going to atone with the idea that he was just being used himself. And I thought that was such a great way to give us a very, very great ending to the season and series, and it's just been a long ride, and we'll talk more about the details and all of that tomorrow. I just wanted to go over the ending. So pretty much, yeah, 11 was able to escape thanks to the help of Callie, who was able to do 2 different powers on her. One was the invisibility that let her escape, and the other was the illusion that she created so that people thought she was going to be there when the Upside Down exploded. But she was able to give Mike this farewell. Will they ever get back together or see each other? I don't think so. I think that they just go on to live their lives, and I think Mike deep down and 11 knowing the truth is something that helped them be at peace with one another about what exactly happened here. Vecna was ultimately defeated thanks to everybody and everybody coming together. And I really love the finale with Steve, with Nancy, with Jonathan, as well as Robin. It was just such a great representation of growing up together and ultimately going on your separate ways and still being happy with one another. And that was kind of what I liked, that this show didn't try to like force things to happen or any of that. It just happens. Life happens. You drift away, and that's how it is, and it's great. It was a great send-off to all of these characters, I think, and an emotional payoff. Especially, I think Henry is a phenomenal actor, and I really love the cave scene. Just incredible stuff there. But I do want to get more in depth with it and talk about the details, so that's going to be tomorrow. But yeah, by the end of it, we saw that Vecna was just being used by the Mind Flayer this whole time. The Mind Flayer was just using it as a vessel in order for somebody to be able to travel within the worlds, and Vecna was the perfect specimen for that. And ultimately 11 finished what she started with the Upside Down, but she was able to do it in a way thanks to Callie's sacrifice that made it happen, where she was able to destroy the Upside Down with herself, but ultimately lived. So she's able to go on and live a life. Although she can never see Mike and all of them, she wanted Mike to thank them for showing her love, showing her compassion, something she never had. And I thought it was just a great send-off. Purple Rain was such an amazing song to put it to, and I'm excited to see what the Duffer Brothers want to do next in the Stranger Things world, because I think there's a lot more we could do here for sure. sure. So we'll see what happens. Let me know what you thought about the finale. I just wanted to quickly talk about it. Happy New Year's. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're going to be coming with you with the live, so don't miss out the live tomorrow. And we got a ton of other videos and theories about where Stranger Things could go next, because I don't think it's over, guys. I don't think it's over. We're going to get the spin-offs. We're going to see more, and I think it's going to be great. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on this series. 10 years comes to an end. 2025 has come to an end. I hope to see you in the new year, and I hope you're subscribed. We got a lot to talk about, y'all. So anyways, let me know what you liked or didn't like about the finale, and we'll discuss more details tomorrow. As always, stay safe, stay positive.